When did you stop being afraid of AIDS?
I don't think I was ever afraid of AIDS.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Why? Well,
The first time I got an AIDS test, I hyperventilated and cried.
No, because I was always...
I was fucking a guy with AIDS.
I was like... I mean, I was on the internet as a teenager.
Yeah.
So, like, and the internet back then was all, like, very, very much right-wing. So, like, you know, you'd learn it... Like, they also couple drug education with sex education. You have health class in school.
Health class, you're right.
And what do they tell you in health class? They tell you that drugs are bad, that if you smoke weed, you're going to end up a crack addict. You know, like that drugs do, they give you brain damage. You know, weed will give you brain damage, all this stuff. And then they also tell you that you can get AIDS if you have sex and all of this stuff, and that straight people can get AIDS. They tell you all of this stuff, and then you leave health class, and then you find out drugs are fine. Even the guy who taught the health class probably smokes
He was high
weed.
as fuck.
He probably smokes weed. That's all a lie.
He probably had AIDS.
It was all created by a racist government to come up with these lies to tell you about drugs. And it's like, but the other part of the class, that's true. And it's like, well, no, none of this is, I'll throw it all out. I don't believe in any of this.
I stopped being afraid of AIDS when Penn and Teller did a bullshit episode on it.
Oh, really?
Penn and Teller did bullshit on AIDS, and they called bullshit on AIDS. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then they were like, they went over like the percentage, the chance, even if you had sex with a woman who had AIDS, like straight sex.
Yeah.
And it was such a small chance to be able to catch it. I was like, oh, that's it.
No, there was like a concerted effort to, like, that might be why, like, it's very easy to just blame the, like, public health authorities for all of this. But, like, so AIDS was first recognized in gay communities, and because it was the marginalized community, the government didn't give a fuck about doing anything about it. Like, Reagan famously kind of laughed after a phone call from, like, I think it was like Rock Hudson was like, "Hey, listen, buddy, we're all dying over here. All your old Hollywood pals are dying." Reagan was like, tough shit, homo. My wife blew everybody. That's my AIDS. My wife sucked everyone's cock.
It's God's answer to what you're doing.
Yeah. So good luck with your butt monkey virus. The White House won't be helping with anything. And then it was branded as, like, initially they called it GRIDS. It was gay-related immunodeficiency syndrome. And because it was a gay thing, there was no, like, public funding for it or research. And then Larry Kramer wrote all those plays, and that actually probably benefited him more than anything, you know, because now he's Mr. AIDS. It was like that was the problem, is it was branded as such. And so at the time, I feel like in the late 80s, early 90s, the correction wasn't to say, oh, homophobia is wrong. We should stop being mean to gay people. It's like, no, we should get people to care about AIDS by branding it as a disease for everybody. Yeah. And so then there was that little boy. There was like a little white boy that got AIDS. Probably like, from the church. I don't know. Like, he probably just, he probably was like, oh, it was a blood transfusion. I'm like, yeah, they transfused his blood all over some guy's cock at church. That's what probably
a little gay slut. He was like in gay nightclubs.
Yeah. No, it was like Ryan White or whatever, and then it was like, everyone can get AIDS, and then they branded it as like an every.
I remember that. I remember that so clearly. You were a little younger than me. I remember watching it at the time. It was a part of like our culture.
But then that had the reverse effect, where it was like, okay, well now there's insufficient education going towards like younger gay people to tell them like, no, this is very much something to be concerned with, and like, you know, you in particular need to use like protection, or, you know, like you should be concerned about AIDS, because then it became like an everybody thing when it is something that affects this like one community. You know what I mean? It would be like if, and I've gotten so much worse at analogies in my life, but it would be like if like let's say the world didn't care about handicapped people, and they don't. And then suddenly, like, we didn't have stairs until the 1980s. And they invented stairs, and then fucking, you know, like Christopher Reeves is, like, calling his friend Ronald Reagan and being like, can you please help me? I can't get into my apartment. And he's like, tough shit.
That's God's answer to horseback riding.
That's what you get for riding a horse like a fairy.
There's either this or AIDS.
Like a fancy prince on your horse.
Reagan did not like his highfalutin horse riding.
Yeah.
Dude, Reagan's the best president ever.
Yeah. Ride a horse? Well, you deserve it. And then they were like, well, what if we convince people that stairs are a problem for everybody, right? Yeah. And then we were like, oh, okay, we should all fucking be careful about, I don't know. I'm giving up on this analogy.
Right. I liked it.
No.
I like the analogy.
I don't know, but there was like 20 years of them like saying it the wrong way, and then it took until I feel like in the last 15 years they figured out like, oh, there's a way to say, hey, AIDS mostly affects like gay men, you know, so like you guys should use
they still do in like the commercials, like they throw a fucking Chinese girl in there for some reason, and then they'll have a straight couple being like, we're using PrEP.
Yeah, they find the right way, the right balance.
But it's like it was 9 or 10 gay dudes, like really.
And as soon as they did that, it was cured. Yeah. Like literally as soon as they figured out the right way to like brand it, then it was like, oh, a pill that you take and then you don't have AIDS.
I feel like also the branding for PrEP should be a little darker than it is.
Did you
like they brand it like it's a Skittles commercial.